the halal scene in New York has grown so much. I mean, I can't tell you how many restaurants I currently have on my list that I'm going to check out after Ramadan. It's gotten to the point where I have to kind of narrow down the list to like, what is the most unique, right?
The Halal Food Podcast by Halalrun, the number one guide to halal eating options in the US, Canada, and the UK. On our podcast, we feature inspiring and accomplished Muslims in the West from all backgrounds. We talk to them about their lives and about the halal restaurants where they love to eat. Now, in this episode, we bring you part 2 of our conversation with Halal NYC, a top NYC blogger. In part 1, she spoke to us about her top picks across all of New York City, as well as her journey into becoming a blogger. And now in part 2, she tells us about her top picks specifically in Manhattan, as well as causes she supports and how she uses her fame and her success to help others. Let's jump right to it. I will just put you on the spot, sister, and say one thing, which is I live in the 212. I'm from Manhattan. And I think you've made it really hard for me because I'm going to have to do a lot of outer borough traveling to hit these spots. Do you have any unique spots in on the island, on the main Manhattan Island for me to check out?
I do. Listen, hey, look, we've got halal restaurants everywhere, right? But Manhattan has some pretty incredible ones too. And let's see. So, okay, first and foremost, Chelsea Market is a very popular market in Chelsea, and it's also a very popular tourist location. And up until now, we've never had a halal spot in there. And Rasa, I mean, hey, the first halal restaurant I ever discovered, it's an amazing fusion of Singaporean, Malaysian, and Thai cuisine. They and Indonesian food, and I think they're still. I've visited recently, and I think the quality and consistency is still same as it was since 2016. So that one's incredible. Another go-to for all Muslims. No Muslim in New York City. So here's the thing. On my page, a lot of people have controversial opinions about restaurants, but there's one restaurant that everyone loves, and it's called Top Thai. It is considered one of the top Thai restaurants in the halal scene. We have a couple, but
Yeah,
that
I was
one.
going to say which one. There's 2, right?
Oh, yeah. So Top Thai on Carmine Street.
Carmine, yeah.
Yeah, Carmine Street. Yeah, that one is iconic. It's so beautiful. They really went off with the ambiance. I remember during COVID, they built this whole outdoor setup. And I remember I was like, you know what, I need to eat something outside for once. And I went there and it was just me and a bunch of other Pakistanis just freezing on the outdoor seating, eating Thai food. But it hit the spot. And you know what, you got to give credit where it's due. They were one of the first halal Thai restaurants. They've come out with incredible mocktails even. They've got a really good solid menu. And I think that's a very iconic spot that you should definitely hit up if you're ever touring in the city. That's the one. Another great halal restaurant in the city is if you want something more on the fancier side, is 212 Steakhouse. I mean, that's become a staple for a lot of Muslims too. If you want a fancy night out, and it's also really close. It's in Midtown, so it's close to a lot of tourist spots that you can check out. Actually, on my way to 212, I discovered one of my recently favorite halal restaurants in Manhattan. It's called Himalayan Curry House. It's Nepali and Thai cuisine, literally down the block from 212. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe I can save a couple extra bucks and have some Nepali food instead of steak. And yeah, that place really hits the spot too. They've got momos. They've got a bunch of halal, Nepalian like Himalayan food to find halal is difficult. They don't have a really big Muslim population, but some owners do make it Muslim, so make it halal, and they're one of those. So I really appreciated that as well. And recently, um, Bella Hadid, who is half Palestinian, she actually visited a halal restaurant called Birria Les. It's a birria taco spot. And not sure if most people know, but birria is sometimes made in pork broth. So even if you're one of those who says Bismillah and considers it halal, you might want to double check on that. But Birria Les actually has a chef from Tijuana, which is where birria tacos are popularly made in Mexico, and it's owned by the head chef and these 2 incredible Bangladeshi owners, and they teamed up to make this hole in the wall spot, and it's quite honestly blown up since then. And Bella Hadid even just put them on the spot even more. That is a absolute must try if you're in the city. Have you ever tried birria?
Oh yeah, and they've opened a second location.
Yeah, on St. Mark's. Yeah,
on St. Mark's, right on 2nd Avenue, St. Mark's. I was just there the other day. So I've gotten from I live uptown, pretty far uptown, and I have been sent. My wife loves Mexican food. I've been sent many times to Rivington to get birria, and it was so exciting for me to find a closer birria, so I don't have to go as far. But yeah, no, they're incredible.
They're killing it. And also, they're part of Smorgasburg, which is a big thing. Smorgasburg is one of the biggest halal food, I mean, biggest food festivals here in New York, and they're the only halal vendor for that one, which is, and for them to make it there, it's amazing.
They are next level, and the new location is phenomenal. We're about to do a post just about that because they're so good. Um, those are some I will, you've totally come through. All your picks in Manhattan are spot on. I've been to, I think, all except one, and they are clutch. So that is great stuff. I will say one thing about what you were saying about the Korean restaurant full of Pakistanis. One thing we do at Halalrun, I mean, we're a full on directory of 17,000 restaurants in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. Right? We celebrate Muslims like yourself, and we feature bloggers and other just prominent Muslims through content, just connecting the community. The other thing we do is we try to raise awareness about the benefits of offering halal, right? And what you find, and not to get too sort of businessy or technical, but you got to speak to these. If you're speaking to a non-Muslim restaurant owner, you got to talk to them in a language that resonates, which is basically, bro or sis, your restaurant operates on very small margins, right? And a 10% increase in volume or a 20% increase in volume off the same fixed base is a big, big, big deal, right? To the economics of a restaurant, right? Like your rent is the same, whatever, and it's all variable. But like that is the margin from that's just going your bottom line, and it can make or break you. And the quickest way for any restaurant to boost its sales by 10, 20, 30%, whatever the restaurant is to just go halal, right? And like you said, all the Muslims will show up, right?
They will.
And so when you make that case again and again and again, sometimes it resonates. And so that's part of what we do as well, is this advocacy, because you see it. You see it in any, like,
Actually, I've had there was a publication that featured me, and they wanted to get like percentages, and it turned out one restaurant had a 40% increase in sales after I posted, because Muslims just like ran. And I was like, there's just like, it was a cafe in Manhattan, and since then they've relocated, but they were like, yeah, we had a 40% increase and we were not prepared. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And even like the Thea Thai Bistro, when I went, they were like, okay, let us know when you're going to post so we can have an extra stock of like short rib, because we know that people are going to show up. And I'm always, sometimes I underestimate how, Muslims are going to really venture out to these places, because I mean, we've been deprived for so long. And we just want to try new food and new things, and we're happy to go and support these establishments. And every time it catches me by surprise. I've had restaurant owners be like, let us know when you're coming so we can have extra staff the days after because we're gonna need it. I'm like, that's incredible. I love this community. I love it.
oh, absolutely. We're so hungry. I mean, the especially right now in Ramadan, right? But you're totally right, because if you look at a restaurant that gets like a big review, for example, from like the New York Times or whatever, right? They'll get a spike, and it'll taper off, and people know that they were in that whatever, right? But you go halal and you're promoted by the halal community, like the Muslims will come forever, right? That is sustained, and that is like you can just bank that consistently as long as your food stays good.
I think you make a really interesting point about that, because I've seen a lot of, and I won't go into specifics, but I've seen a lot of halal restaurants that have paid to be on really big publications, and they don't see the effect of it, the impact of it. They get a couple of, even if they work with like non-halal bloggers, and they pay and to get all that promo, it doesn't work. But once they start promoting to the Muslim community, it just goes crazy. I think that our community is just so hands-on, engaged, and supportive. And this is something that all restaurants should take note of, is how much, first of all, how many Muslims we have in New York, right? That just goes to show that there's a big population. And secondly, it shows that we would like to be represented, and we are here to eat too. You can't just exclude us from these things. So I love when non-halal, non-Muslim restaurant owners start catering to halal. I mean, I'm sure they're thinking about the business aspect maybe, but at the end of the day, like it's like we'll support it. We're here. We're here and hungry, like you said.
Yeah, and we're loyal,
And
right?
we are.
Like a good halal place shows up, like we will just keep going back again and again and again to support it because we want to keep these establishments around and alive. Right. And that's what I tell people as well when we're trying to convince them, like you will not get a more loyal customer base because, like people like you and I, like, so you've been in New York your whole life. I came to New York in 2000, right? So it's been 23 years. So I remember the dark halal days when there was like
The
the
chicken
truck
over
only
rice
days.
day.
Yeah, exactly. It was just chicken and rice. And whenever anyone, right, especially a non-Muslim, like a Muslim, I'll still support it. I'll still love it, whatever. It's not the same risk, right? But when a non-Muslim takes the risk and says, okay, I'll offer halal, especially you're talking about, a couple decades ago back when, like you said, people didn't want to say they were halal, right? But they still did it. Like, I want to reward that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is, it, and some of them, they have to really do their research. Some of them even get certifications. Like, think about Dave's Hot Chicken, right? This is this is a multi-million dollar corporation.
60 locations national.
And when you walk in to the Midtown location, where honestly, their demographics over there, it's mostly, non-Muslims because they're in
Yeah.
Midtown, it's
Yeah, Midtown
corporate.
office
Yeah.
people work. Yeah.
But they've got the halal certificate right at the counter. And I admire that. And I'm like, you know what? That's amazing. And for that, like, you deserve all the support. You're halal, you're amazing, food tastes great. But to even do that, because a lot of halal restaurants sometimes don't even want to put the halal logo outside because of either it's because of Islamophobia or because people think that it's still chicken over rice. That's still a narrative I'm trying to work on to tell people, please stop chicken over rice. I remember working in corporate America, and every time I started saying I'm not vegan. I'm like, I want halal food. Please order halal food for me. And they would be like, so you want chicken over rice in a meeting? And I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. I think so. I would have to explain it to them. But yeah, no, Dave's doing that is incredible. I love that.
Yeah. And Dave's Hot Chicken is not Muslim owned.
No, it's not.
Oh, that's amazing. I've been to the one in West Hollywood, which was great. I have yet to hit the one in Midtown, but I will.
Oh yeah, you should go now. They have a hot box Ramazan special.
I'll go this evening. But you know what's funny? When you say the like the chicken, the chicken or the rice thing reminds me of, because I'm constantly battling this as well. So in like I feel like the 2000s, right? Now, so I'm talking about the country of Vietnam. Such an incredible kind of recovery story, right? The economy is booming now. It's a flourishing country. It's a country that's rebuilt itself. But I remember like an ad campaign that Vietnam did, and this is not a political statement at all. So everyone who's watching, this is not politics, it's not judgments, whatever. It's marketing. They had an ad campaign in I want to say the 1990s, right? Where they put print ads in like top newspapers, whatever, saying Vietnam is a country, not a war, right? They're just like, move past, look at us, look at who we are, we're rebuilding, whatever. But Vietnam is a country, not a war. And I feel like a similar way with like the halal is chicken over rice, right? It's just like, folks,
Yeah.
halal is everything. It's not just chicken over rice.
I agree. But you know what I think we've also, so going back to what we said about the whole vegan thing, I feel like Muslims don't bother explaining themselves. And I think we need to plant our feet in the ground and be like, no, like this is what it is. And all the times in corporate America where there have been caterings for meetings and I've requested vegetarian, I totally regret that. I remember, my fellow Jewish coworkers who would adamantly request kosher and they would get it. And it doesn't matter if it's an inconvenience to others, you kind of have to make sure that you're included, you know? It isn't an inconvenience. Honestly, these people would be happy to do it for you. You just have to stand up and speak for it. And I think that's something that we really, really need to do. And I appreciate a lot of halal bloggers that have spoken up about this. I mean, I know we think it's a silly little issue, but overall, I don't think so. It is because we should say what halal is. And I have a great example of this. There's a Mexican restaurant in Metropolitan Ave and on Metropolitan Avenue, and they had something called Mexican bowl halal food style. But what it is it's similar to chicken over rice, but it's not halal. And Muslims started going in there and ordering it thinking it was halal because of how the term has been misused. So now if you go on their Uber Eats, they have an asterisk saying this is not actually halal. It's halal food style. Now, again, that's still a terrible way of phrasing it, but this is what the confusion can cause. This is how, and the worst part is that they have a halal restaurant right next door. So I think that's how they actually got the Muslim customers in there. But again, like this is why we need to clear up this confusion, right? Like this is not okay.
Agreed. And you're right. Like, I mean, I have, uh, just like you, right? I have spent a lot of time telling people, right? Like, and when you interact with people, all my friends, right? My non-Muslim friends know, like, I eat only halal, right? And they know what it is. And just organically, we all need to have those conversations, like you're saying, and just be more, more upfront about it and more vocal about it. And it's not a bad thing. Like you said, I've found the same thing, which is people want to accommodate. They want you to feel comfortable. They want you to eat the way you want to eat. They just don't always know, right? And it's sort of like hand to hand contact of sort of like individual conversations is how we're going to kind of raise awareness, and also kind of like you're saying, remove kind of like the fear or the whatever in the sort of non-educated public around what halal is, right? Because part of the reason that restaurants might be reluctant to have a halal sign out front, not so much anymore, but if there's reluctance, is because of the way it's going to be perceived. But if more people understand what halal is, right, the more non-Muslims, then like that becomes less of an issue as well, and then you'll see more of those halal signs. So it's it's an ongoing quest, right? An ongoing campaign, an ongoing mission, which we're all a part of. Well, sister, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you one last thing, which is, one thing you spoke earlier about, bloggers who use their platforms because you reach an audience to sort of, raise awareness about other things. And I've noticed that, during Ramadan or otherwise, you've been raising awareness of a couple of charity causes, right, including Islamic Relief. So why don't you talk a little? We love seeing that happen, like you said, using your platform and your voice and your audience to do good. Tell us about some of these causes and these charities that you've been mentioning and raising awareness for.
As I mentioned before, because I have really high engagement on my blog, I definitely try to raise awareness for any type of uh, organization that relates to Muslims, because I think it's important that we speak up for our people when others won't, especially when the earthquake happened in Syria and Turkey, and I saw a bunch of non-Muslim bloggers that were just going on about their life, and I'm like, hello, tragedy just hit in these countries, and maybe we should do something to help. So I think Instagram has so many wonderful features where I can put fundraisers right on my blog, so as soon as you click it, you can see that. But there are a couple more intimate charities that I've been involved with. Mo, Big Halal Apple, his father unfortunately passed away during COVID, and since then he's been raising money for back home in Lebanon. He basically puts together these iftar boxes because of Lebanon's current economic state, and he has, in the name of his dad, he's donating, creating these Ramadan boxes, and he created like a GoFundMe, and I share it on my page, and I like that I can see this charity that I can help directly. It's somebody I know, somebody I trust, and this is and it's a positive impact. So definitely really enjoy doing these. I have people DM me all the time about different charities, different causes that I can help, and I love doing that. There's also in Astoria, there's the halal fridge community, like it's called Astoria Halal Fridge, where people put in halal food in it, and anybody in need can take it. So these are some. I've definitely been contributing to like Islamic Relief. These are bigger corporations, but there are some, right here in New York that I can help to directly and see the impact right before my eyes. So yeah, definitely really enjoy using my blog for these things. I think somebody has to do this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for doing that, and for everything else you do for the community. And sister, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been so awesome having.
What an amazing conversation to have. I could talk about halal food for days.
Yeah, I know. Same here. And so we'll have to have you back on, inshallah, the podcast again in the future. Have a blessed rest of your Ramadan, and we'll be in touch. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Halalrun is the #1 guide to halal eating options in the US, Canada, and the UK, featuring over 17,000 restaurants in over 2,500 cities. You can find us on our website at halalrun.com or on all our socials where we are at Halalrun. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe so we can bring you more great content like this. We are here to serve you.